Hello! I'm a year into OT school and there's a lot of things I wish someone would have told me before I started this journey. So I am someone and I am telling you now. Hey, I'm Sandra. I'm an occupational therapy student and amateur outdoors adventurer, and I am sharing little bits of my life so that I can remember all the fun that I get to have. So stick around for a really good time. Excuse the dog walking around in the background. Oh, you're gonna lay down there? That doesn't look comfortable. So real quick before we get into it, I just wanted to talk about my path to finding OT and ultimately how I applied to schools. Just the quick version. The dog's back. Like many others that come across OT, was on a path to physical therapy, but every time I would talk to a PT or shadow a PT, I would always ask questions of if they have a total knee replacement, how are they gonna ride their bike like they like to, or how are they gonna cook their food because they can't stand for extended periods of time. And eventually one PT was like, hey, these questions are great, but you're really asking questions that you should be asking an OT right now, and it sounds like you're really thinking like an OT. So maybe you should go explore that field. I was a junior in college, and so I went and I found an internship doing respite care for children with significant disabilities, a lot of children with autism, and I started that internship in the spring of 2020. So unfortunately my first experience with an occupational therapist was cut extremely short. So there was no way I was getting into a hospital, there was no way I was getting into a healthcare center. I was pretty sure that OT was my path because I had talked to a lot of OTs and it sounded like something that I was really excited about, but I had never actually seen it done. So the application cycle for the fall of 2021, which is when I started OT school, opened in July of 2020. And at this point I had shadowed one very niche field of occupational therapy and had never seen anything else and interviewed 3 OTs. And so I wasn't married to going straight to OT school. I only applied to 2 occupational therapy programs. One was a master's and one was a doctorate. So I said, I'll just limit it. If I get in, great. Ultimately, I got into both programs. I chose the doctorate. I'm 1 year in, and there are a few things that I wish I would have known about the program and about occupational therapy that I will now share with you guys. So the first thing is, I feel like when it comes to applying for really any graduate program, occupational therapy school specifically, you're being interviewed. For most of these programs, an interview is required. If you're not getting interviewed, I'd be concerned because you're also not getting a chance to meet the faculty and see what matters to them. An interview is important because it gives you a sense of what the school wants. It allows you to meet the faculty, but it also gives you an opportunity to interview them. Every single program's interview questions are different. I talked to a lot of friends who applied to a larger number of schools than I did, and they were like, yeah, I was never asked the same question except why do you want to be an occupational therapist twice. What they ask you kind of highlights what they think is important and their values. Having the opportunity to not only find out if I was a student that they wanted, but to figure out if they were a school that I want. Because you're going to spend 2 or 3 years of your life, and ultimately they're defining your practice as an occupational therapist. I wish I would have known as I was interviewing that it wasn't just about them liking me, it was also about me liking them. Ultimately, I'm really happy with my decision, but I probably could have gone in a little less blind. The next thing is talk to current students. If you are unable to talk to a student, email your admissions counselor and ask if they can connect you with a current student, because if they can't do that, then they're hiding something. Their students are unhappy, they aren't treating their current students well, they're trying to woo you, and then they forget about you. And that's unacceptable. Talk to current students. I've been on the interview panel where students have the opportunity to talk to us, and it's kind of just a mind game. When students ask what don't you like about the program, you know that you're there in the sense of representing your program, so you don't want to talk poorly about it, so you kind of twist it a little bit. So I would phrase your question more of what is one thing you would like to change about your program, because I think just psychologically that's a lot more positive of a question, and you'll probably get a more honest answer. I wish I would have known that my program didn't have any opportunities for us to experience a real person with a real deficit. We've talked so much about stroke and MS and brain injury in general and how you'd rehab it, and then we talk about all these things that come up, and it's you guys are OTs, our professors. You really don't have a connection to one person that would be willing to take 30 minutes out of their day to come into lab and let us test their sensation on their affected arm, because you're telling us it'd be diminished, but I don't get to see that. Like, I know that that's a huge ask of people, but I also have talked to many people with disabilities and that have had different things happen to them, and I know that a lot of them are willing to do that because they've benefited so much from their therapist that they want to help the next generation of therapists. So it was really disappointing to me when I learned that we had no chance to do that. So yeah, I wish I would have known that there were no patient experiences, and I wish I would have asked about that in an interview or when I was talking to an actual student. The next thing that I would add is ask if working is possible and like look at schedules, see if there are any graduate assistant opportunities. I have worked anywhere from 15 to 40 hours a week during my first year of grad school, and it is exhausting and time consuming, but the financial strain that grad school puts on you and the expectation that you'll just pay for it all, including your living expenses with loans, is garbage. My jobs are not at all related to OT. So those things are very just like turn my brain off from school, and it is amazing. It's really great to have something to do where I just am turning off the OT. I have many different occupations, and one of them is school and being a student and being a future occupational therapist, and the rest of them are not. So not everything has to be about OT school, and it's really easy to just make it a never-ending job. I think working's great. I wish I would have known how important working has been to me, because it's possible with my program because I'm a hybrid program, but had I known how vital that would be for my well-being, I would have only sought out programs that I would have been able to work during. While we're talking about money, the next thing that I have is I wish I would have known what type of financial support was offered by my university. I assume because they had a financial aid office, they would be able to offer me actual financial aid advice and help me understand the process of accepting loans, how much to take. I figured it out, but figuring out if I have X amount to pay for school, how much do I actually need to pay, because it's not itemized. Oh my gosh, it was just a whole show. And all in all, I would say that the financial aid support at my school is poor, and I wish I would have asked what type of support there was for students, and I would have asked the professors that were interviewing me how they supported the financial literacy of their graduate students. And then when it comes to school support, I have found that I love our school gives the class money to do things as a class. We're a small cohort, we're only 22 students, and we've been able to like get food to have in class, or like go out. We did a pottery night where we like did a paint your own pottery as a cohort, and it was super fun, and ability to grow closer with the students who you spend a lot of time with academically but not personally was really cool and like really awesome for just the culture of the program, and having that support is really, really amazing and has improved my academic experience. And then the last thing I wish I would have known before applying to OT school and going through the interview process is I wish I would have dug deeper into my school's curriculum. There are some things that I didn't know about that are really positive. For example, I'm in a class right now where we're learning a lot more about orthotics, and we get to do like 12 different orthotics. Some curriculums have a 2-hour lecture on orthoses, and they don't ever actually get to make one. Well, that's a huge part of occupational therapy and like a whole different modality to support your client. I think it's really awesome that we get that kind of hands-on experience, but I do feel a little bit disappointed with kind of the forward thinking and like cutting edge interventions, as well as just like understanding of the world. As someone who wants to be a diversely accepting occupational therapist, that's massively frustrating. And then also just when it comes to interventions that haven't been around forever but that we're learning a ton about, yeah, is that incorporated? It's actually another thing that I'm kind of frustrated with occupational therapy as a whole profession that I didn't really realize, because when you're in the point of asking people about their job or shadowing, they're going to show you all the best parts and you're not going to see the worst parts. But OTs do not shine the light on themselves to any other field. In general, don't advocate for themselves as practitioners the way that they should. We have this incredible value of being practitioners that can help you with a physical deficit while also caring about who you are as a person. Being so client-centered is so unique, and just acknowledge that it's within our scope of practice and we can address that, and it doesn't just have to fall onto another field. Speech language pathologists, physical therapists, physicians, we're all helping support each other. everything is meant to work together to best support our patients, but I feel like there's always a little bit of competition between each field and what we cover because there's a lot of gray areas. And I feel like occupational therapy and therapists tend to let those gray areas fall to the fields that they overlap with. And I feel like my program has taught me to allow that and not to advocate for my profession as well as I should. Maybe this is just like a call to action for all of you future OTs. I just wish the OT would accept that they're freaking amazing and we deserve a space to go big in therapy. I really love the program that I chose and I'm super happy with my path towards occupational therapy. I think it's a great field. I think there's a lot of room for improvement in all of healthcare. And I hope that all of you who are applying this cycle and the next one and the one after that are able to be a part of that change and growth. And that you all figure it out. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment. And if you want to tag along on my journey and learn a few things about how to study and how to process the world of occupational therapy, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.